Hi, everyone. Welcome to Simply Mental Health, where we talk about evidence-based strategies to support your mental health and hopefully turn you into your own therapist. My name is Dr. Parky. I received my PhD in clinical psychology in 2024, and today I'll be talking about the behavioral experiment, which is one of my favorite cognitive behavioral therapy strategies I use with my patients. So before we jump into what a behavioral experiment is, I want to talk about this idea of the intolerance of uncertainty. So people often have a fear of the unknown, which is like evolutionarily adaptive. We don't want to be going into random caves where we don't know what's inside because there could be a bear inside and it's going to maul us or a monster is going to kill us. So generally speaking, the fear of the unknown is a good thing. However, some people take this fear and kind of elevate it up to an 11. Like they have a literal allergy, it seems like, to uncertainty. Like they might hear it in their voice when they say, I'd rather just know I didn't get the job than to wait any longer. So they would rather the negative outcome, not getting the job, having the monster kill them, than to actually sit and stew in the uncertainty. And this intolerance of uncertainty can certainly make it hard to live a valued life because a lot of life is uncertain. If we try to keep everything the same all the time, we're never going to be able to take the jump of bravery to do the things that we really want. So the intolerance of uncertainty is transdiagnostic, meaning that it increases risk of various mental health concerns, and it's especially prevalent in generalized anxiety disorder, where the bread and butter of GAD is worry about pretty much everything. So, underlying this intolerance of uncertainty, I think, is that we really believe what our mind tells us. We treat our thoughts as facts. Like, if I try out this new restaurant, I'm not going to like it. If I don't check my work 55, 53 times, I'm going to make a mistake and be fired. If I ask that girl out, she's going to laugh in my face. Everybody's going to make fun of me, and I'm going to be like totally a social pariah for the rest of my life. So we treat our thoughts as gospel and we act assuming that the belief is true. So if I believe that I'm not going to like this new restaurant or this new dish, I'm not going to order it. I'm going to make sure to check my work many, many, many times so that I don't make a mistake. And I'm not going to ask the girl out. I'm not even going to breathe in her direction because I think it's not going to work out. But the thing about our thoughts is that thoughts are thoughts. Thoughts are not facts, and we're not prophets. In some ways, like it's an exercise in arrogance to assume that we know what is going to happen in the future. And in reality, we don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to get the job or not if I apply. I don't know if I'm going to enjoy the food or not if I try it out. And I don't know if the girl is going to say yes or no until I ask her. So the negative prediction could be true or it might not be. And the most important piece of this is that immediately assuming this belief to be true is just simply not helpful. It moves us away from our valued goals. Like, we're not going to apply for the job. We're not going to be adventurous. We're not going to try and ask the girl out because we just assumed that what our brain told us was true. So, the way to deal with intolerance of uncertainty and treating our thoughts as facts is through a behavioral experiment. And the behavioral experiment really is just a fancy term for a way to test out our negative predictions and practice strengthening our tolerance to uncertainty. It basically says, I actually have no idea what is going to happen, so I'm just going to be curious about it, and I'm going to test whether that negative prediction was true. So the steps to conducting a behavioral experiment, the first one is to, I'm going to move myself away for a bit moments, is to determine what the situation is. What is going on right now? Am I at a restaurant? Am I thinking about going to a movie and trying out a new movie? What's going on here? The second is identifying what the prediction is. So what am I predicting is going to happen? What is my anxiety brain telling me? And then I just do the thing anyway. Here's my experiment. Here's my thoughts. Here's my prediction. I'm going to do my experiment. And then I'm going to be curious about it and I'm going to assess what happened afterwards. I'm going to assess the outcomes. And then I'm just going to reflect like what happened? Was it positive? Was it negative? Was it neutral? Did I learn anything from it? And that's it. That's the behavioral experiment. You can do it formally, you can do it informally. You're just trying out the new thing. You're being curious about it and you're just seeing what happens. So this is just like a small example of a behavioral experiment. Maybe the situation is that you're trying out a new restaurant or trying out a new dish, and your anxiety brain is saying, well, I'm not going to like it. I'm going to waste my money if I don't order my usual stuff. It's going to be a crappy experience. And the experiment is, well, that was my prediction, so let me test it. I'm going to order it anyways. And what was the outcome? In this case, the person said it was pretty tasty. I still like my usual order more, but their lesson learned was like it was still nice to try something else. Like the worst thing that could have happened was that I didn't like it and I can always go back to my regular order if I want. Now, a lot of people come under the assumption of behavioral experiments only work if the outcome was positive. But the secret power, the secret behind the behavioral experiment is that a behavioral experiment is always a win-win. The experiment either goes well and you can tick a box that says, well, that went really well, so maybe uncertainty isn't always necessarily a bad thing, or your negative prediction was true, your anxious brain was right, and it goes poorly, and you learn that you can cope with the bad outcome. Or three, you're dead and it doesn't matter either way. But ultimately, the goal is to improve your tolerance of uncertainty and learn that uncertainty is not always bad. And uncertainty just means literally it's ambiguous. You don't know whether it's positive, you don't know whether it's negative or neutral, and you're allowed to kind of then check it out and you're able to kind of have a slightly different perspective on what uncertainty is. And for some people that after they do a bunch of behavioral experiments, they learn that maybe uncertainty is actually kind of exciting. I don't know what's going to happen, and it doesn't always have to be a bad thing. And sometimes it can be a good thing. But the other piece of the secret power of behavioral experiments is that even if it was a bad thing, it's great because you learn that you can cope with bad shit that happens in your life. So when it comes to cognitive behavioral therapy and the skills, learning about them is one thing, but you really get the dividends when you actually try them out. So I challenge you to do a small behavioral experiment even today or this week. Like it doesn't matter what. You can start with something that's super low stakes and then make your way up. So for some of my patients, they've just like tried out a different bubble tea flavor or tried out a new ramen flavor packet. You can also do other strategies or experiments like make a call without taking 20 minutes to prepare, trying out a new exercise at the gym, talk to someone on the streets. Whatever you design is a perfect behavioral experiment. Just notice when your brain makes a random prediction that's negative in nature and say, actually, I don't know if that's going to happen. So why don't I just give it a shot? And remember, it's always win-win. The experiment either goes well or two, it didn't go well, and you learn that you can survive and you can cope. Thanks for listening and happy experimenting.